Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. Today isn't just about understanding burnout, it's about learning how to transform it into brilliance. This is about your leadership, this is about your energy and living your life on your terms. So let's dive in. How to lead without burning out, a step by step strategy. So, hi. I'm Hawa, founder of Hawa Combian Consulting, and I was born in Canada, raised in Kuwait, and today I'm proudly grounded in Ghana, in West Africa. My journey weaves together different worlds, from my work in the humanitarian field to leadership consulting, and from corporate rooms to energy healing spaces. I'm certified as a Reiki and shamanic energy healer because I truly believe that leadership transformation starts from the inside out. And along the way, I also became an early leader in remote first global teams, building resilient cultures long before it became mainstream. Everything I teach is shaped by my lived experience across different cultures, industries, and my personal evolution. So let's talk about the burnout toll, right? So on the outside, everything looked fine, right? I was showing up, I was smiling at events, I was doing all the things that looked like success, right? But inside, I was falling apart. I was constantly stressed. I was emotionally drained and surviving on fumes. And I just kept saying, this is just adult life, right? Or it'll get better after the next promotion. But the truth, I wasn't living, I was just surviving. Eventually, my body, my mind, my spirit forced me to listen. And I realized I didn't need just another band aid solution, right? I needed a complete redesign, and not based on what was expected of me, but on what I truly needed to survive. And this is where the realization came, honestly, that my beliefs and my self care were trash, right? And this realization hit me hard during one of the most demanding chapters of my leadership journey. There was a time when I was working at an organization where I was leading a retreat, and it was a role to be proud of, but behind the scenes, I was burning out, right? I was up until sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, handling logistics or last minute requests, and even relationship and emotional burdens that weren't mine to carry, right? I missed a lot of family time, and I didn't even have the energy to feel guilty. I was just so disconnected at the time, right? And the really scary part isn't just when you're exhausted, it's realizing that you don't really know how to stop or trust yourself to stop, right? And somewhere along the way, I had connected leadership with this idea of pushing through while being the last person standing. But that retreat really forced a shift for me, right? I started to see that more effort didn't equal more impact. That pushing through was no longer leadership. It was really self-abandonment. The truth is, leadership isn't about controlling everything. It's about growing your capacity to lead in alignment with your values. And self care, it's not indulgent, it's truly a leadership strategy. And so here we are now, crossing the bridge into resilience. So the bridge framework didn't come to me all at once. It was born in a moment, or several moments even, of deep burnout, right? So I remember sitting at my desk long after everyone had left for the day, everyone had logged off, and I was just exhausted, right? Your lights are flickering, you're wondering, is this really all there is? Is this what leadership is supposed to feel like? I was running virtual retreats, managing people, doing all the things, but inside I felt completely misaligned. And so one night, scrolling LinkedIn, as you do, I saw a post. And a woman leader was talking about boundaries and balance and showing up with energy and not depletion. And instead of brushing it off, I got curious. What if I could lead like that too? So I started asking better questions. I reflected on what I believed about leadership, right? And where those beliefs came from. That's key. And I noticed how often I was operating from fear, a fear of disappointing people, of looking weak, even, or of just losing momentum and having nowhere else to go in my career. And that's when I realized that something had to change. That's where the bridge framework began to take more of the shape that you see here now, right? And it didn't arrive as a perfect model, it unfolded, kind of like the flower blossoming that we can see in this image. As I slowed down, I listened inward and started leading from integration, not fear. And then these patterns started to emerge for me, right? Each petal in the bridge framework represents a part of that transformation. Not steps to just check off, but elements that continuously inform each other, like a living ecosystem. So it reflects what it really takes to lead with clarity, energy, and alignment. So the burnout moments, when I look back, they didn't just teach me what not to do, they showed me what I needed to build. And so slowly, each petal of this beautiful framework came to life from those moments of deep reflection and experimentation with changing my approach. So, B for beliefs, right? It started with my beliefs. I had to unlearn the idea that more work equals better leadership, that pushing through meant I was strong. And I realized that the strongest thing I could do was to actually question what I'd always accepted as truth. Then with resilience, right? Resilience was not about grinding through it, right? It was about thinking through what sustainability, this buzzword that is often used in nonprofit, social impact, and mission driven work, what does that actually mean? And what does it look like to prioritize it, right? What actions would support me long term and not just help me survive another day, another week? This was a shift from firefighting to real foundation building. The next here we have integration. So, integration was this idea of needing to stop leading from fear, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough, and to start leading from clarity, from my values, from a place of wholeness where my inner truth had a seat at the table and was part of my decision making. Next, we had dynamics, right? So the dynamics started to change as I started integrating. I stepped out of micromanaging. I let go of being in control of everything. And I started empowering others and trusting that my leadership wasn't about me doing it all. It was about creating the space for others to rise as well and to rise to the occasion, right? And to really embrace healthy and sustainable forms of reciprocity in these working relationships. Then next we have growth, right? So growth was not just about my career, but in how I showed up in the world, right? My relationships deepened, my decisions became clearer, and I really felt like I was growing and not just grinding. And lastly, we have energy, right? Not just the kind that gets you through the day, but the kind that sustains your vision. I made rest, recovery, and reflection part of my leadership practice, right? Because your energy is your message. And I wanted mine to say alignment and not just exhaustion. So, whenever you see this flower, know that it's not just a model, it's a map, right? It's the lived experience of learning to lead from a deeper place, one that doesn't sacrifice the soul for the sake of success. So now let's get into it, right? Let's talk behind the scenes, really, of what these different burnout masks look like for me, and perhaps what they may look like for you as well, right? So, firefighting fatigue, when I was leading operations across a country office, I didn't have a solid support system, right? I would voice my limits, I would flag the capacity issues, but the silence in the responses was deafening, right? I kept hoping something would change if I just held on longer. And that is typically the innocent mask at work. So I kept pushing through, thinking that that was leadership. And the result was I got sick over and over again. I was physically present, but emotionally checked out. And eventually I had to step away because the work was burning me out from the inside out. Next, overthinking and over explaining as a realist. So, there was a time when I'd write an email and reread it about 10 times, right? Not because I didn't know what to say, but because anxiety had me questioning the tone, the tact, the timing of what I was saying, right? I accepted that this is just how the realist mask is, right? Because you're trying to survive in a system where you perceive that perfection is expected, right? So I over explained, I was trying to control everything, and it left me drained and disconnected from my own power. So when fear drives communication, it becomes performance and not real leadership. Next, honestly, embracing the mask as the hero. So, at a time in my career when I was a chief of staff, I felt that I needed to be the fixer, that that was my value, that was where my worth and my relevance came from. So, I overfunctioned, right? I would take on too much, I would smooth over misalignments instead of naming them. And that's Hero 101, right? Rescuing the system, sacrificing yourself. And you keep telling yourself, oh, it's temporary, right? I'll put out the fire here and it won't come back. But the silence of doing that really builds pressure. And it started to show up in my body. So my sleep, my relationships, I was managing the optics of having it all together instead of living in truth. And then lastly, we have coaching from an empty cup as a saint, right? So I was building burnout resilience frameworks for organizations. I was teaching teams how to thrive while quietly pushing myself past healthy limits. And that's the saint mask. When your purpose turns into that silent martyrdom. And the lesson is so clear because you can't really model resilience if you're eroding your own foundation. And the healing really had to start with me. And so this is what was really beautiful because healing burnout really did change my leadership, right? And these turning points are what led me to create the burnout to brilliance framework, right? And this bridge framework, not just from theory, but from my lived experience in my life. So it's a process that I wish that I had had in rebuilding my leadership, my resilience, and my life with intention. And so I think it's really beautiful to be able to share that here with you all today in being able to see that, I traded fear for self trust. I started listening to my body, and now my body speaks really loudly to me, sometimes in strange ways, but it's such a powerful um, reminder and a powerful way of connecting me to how I feel and being able to understand how that resonates with my resilience and my ability to protect my energy and protect my time from burnout, right? And again, so much of this is about being with yourself in the moment now, not beating ourselves up for decisions we might have made in the past where we weren't thinking clearly or we were operating from a place of lack, from a place of scarcity, from a place of I'm not good enough, to really saying, you know what, today, if I believe the best thing about myself and I'm willing to make healthy choices for myself, I can lead in a different way, right? And then I think one of the biggest things here is about taking leadership beyond just a mental construct of to do items and task lists, and really making leadership something that is people centered, that is heart centered, and where we don't self abandon, right? We include ourselves when we think about people leadership. We're not just thinking of the people around us, we're including ourselves in that definition. So honestly, I had to stop wearing burnout as a badge of honor, right? Because for so long, I wore it as this point of pride, right? When really it was a scar that needed to be looked at, right? Or a wound that needed to be healed. Overwork wasn't just encouraged, it was celebrated in a lot of the environments I found myself in. And so it took me years to realize that resilience doesn't just happen by pushing harder, right? It's designed through your conscious choices, your boundaries, and the courage to honor that capacity. So the biggest shift for me is I stopped measuring my worth by how much I could carry. And once I did, my decisions changed, my energy changed, and I changed. So, yeah, living the bridge framework has changed how I lead and how I live, right? So, there was a moment during my chief of staff days that was a real turning point for me, where one evening I got a WhatsApp message from a senior leader who was upset that his team was a little bit behind on some of their reporting, and he was pressuring me to step in and fix it, which was not my role. And it was after hours. But instead of taking the responsibility for that, he tried to guilt me for not stepping up, questioning my value, and framing it like I was letting the team down. So in the past, I might have jumped in and saved the day, as the hero probably would, but something shifted in me. I remember feeling the fire of anger rise up in me, and I didn't ignore it. I let that feeling guide me, and in the moment, I chose silence, not to avoid the situation, but as a boundary. I didn't respond. I didn't absorb the blame, and that silence was a way of saying, this is not okay. Later, I brought it to my direct leader and flagged it as a bigger issue around culture and expectations, right? And that one moment, for me, when I look back, it was the seed of when I began honoring my energy in real time. And that's what the bridge framework has taught me. Not just to avoid burnout, but to lead in a way that actually protects my peace, my values, and my voice. I used to lead from exhaustion, and now I lead from alignment, right? So there was a time when I genuinely believed that being a good leader meant saying yes to everything, right? Handling the crisis, always being on, being praised for being reliable. I remember a time when reliability was one of my values, right? I was always ready to jump in, and yet I was exhausted. And that exhaustion looked like skipping meals to meet deadlines. It looked like back to back meetings with no space to think or to breathe. It looked like crying in the bathroom and then jumping on a Zoom call right after just to keep it going and to stay functioning. But I really wasn't well, right? However, living the bridge framework, slowly things started to shift. I learned how to interrupt those patterns and create the space to think strategically and not reactively, right? I began building these programs for others, for folks in the nonprofit, social impact, mission driven field, leaders just like me who were struggling with the same burnout I had experienced. So now alignment feels like waking up without anxiety, like turning off my laptop at 5 p.m. without the guilt, like holding space for my clients from a place of calm confidence and not depletion, right? That shift didn't come from working harder. It came from healing and being able to change my inner narrative around how worthy or how good enough I was or how good enough I was doing, right? And I've watched others step up and also claim that power, right? One of my clients that I've worked with had recently said to me that for the first time in many, many months, they felt like they had room to breathe, right? That they had language for what they were experiencing and a way that didn't cost them their health, and that they could use to connect with others in their organization to start to trickle in and normalize change and healthy dynamics. And that's what it's really about: repeatable, real change. So, in my work today, I work with nonprofit leaders, social impact leaders, and mission driven professionals who want to do meaningful work without constantly running on empty. And through the Bridge framework, I help them uncover their hidden patterns that lead to burnout: always being available, never feeling like they're enough, and tying their worth to their output. So we shift from high functioning overwhelm to high impact leadership, where your clarity, your boundaries, and your alignment aren't just nice to have, they're part of how we operate. And this isn't just about individual transformation, right? It ripples into how you lead your team and how you shape organizational culture. Because ultimately, that they drive mission impact. And so it's important to not forget those elements, even when we're focused on our own personal change and shift, right? Because the truth is, I get it because I've lived it across cultures, across sectors, across screens, right? I've been the one holding too much, saying yes when I meant no, and overperforming to prove that I belonged. But now I get to help people shorten that distance from overextension to being in their authenticity, and from going from sacrifice to going to sustainability. Because we don't need more leaders burning out, right? We need more leaders who are building teams that last and who are building for the future of work. So, at the heart of it, here's what I want you to walk away with: sustainable leadership is possible. It isn't a myth, it's a skill set, it's a mindset, and it's possible. You don't have to burn out to prove that you care, right? You don't have to be the last one holding the mission down when everything else around you is crumbling. With the right tools and the right support, you can lead with clarity, courage, and capacity. Resilience isn't just about pushing through, it's about designing your leadership in a way that fuels you, not drains you. That's what the Bridge framework is all about. If I had this back then, if somebody had told me that it was okay to lead differently or to say no or to protect my energy, I would have avoided so much unnecessary harm. And that's why I do this work now. So other leaders don't have to learn it the hard way. They can learn it now and lead better sooner. Ready to create lasting change? So, over the years, I've had the privilege of supporting nonprofit leaders across the globe to build resilient, values aligned teams, right? And to not just recover from burnout, but to prevent it personally and organizationally. And just as importantly, to reclaim their energy and lead with vision and not just the urgency of firefighting. So now it's your turn. You don't have to keep surviving the cycles. You get to lead differently with alignment, sustainability, and real impact. I am so excited to introduce you to Burnout to Brilliance, which is my one on one coaching program designed specifically for leaders like you who are ready to lead sustainably without compromising their impact. This program is powered by the Bridge framework, a model I developed from both lived experience and professional practice. It's where aligned leadership truly begins. with a path that honors your energy, your vision, and your capacity to create lasting change. In Burnout to Brilliance, you're not just healing from burnout, you're evolving through it, right? So, what we have is you'll get a personalized path designed not just for recovery, but for navigating the transition into your next phase of leadership. You'll have deep one on one support from myself, not just for strategy and team dynamics, but for your energy, your beliefs, and the invisible barriers that most leadership spaces don't address. And you'll have real tools to strengthen your emotional resilience, sharpen your clarity, and align your leadership from the inside out. This isn't just coaching, it's complete recalibration for your brilliance ahead. This transformation meets you where you are, across time zones, across transitions, and across the seasons of your leadership. And again, this is not for leaders who are just looking for another checklist or a quick fix. Burnout to Brilliance isn't for leaders who want to patch the surface without doing the real inner work, right? It's not for those who aren't ready to invest themselves or who are willing to normalize survival instead of evolving into their next brilliant chapter. It's really for leaders who know that sustainable success starts within. It's for those who are ready to lead from alignment and not adrenaline, with the resilience and brilliance that real change demands. Because at the end of the day, you are the strategy. Your revolution, internal and external, is what shifts everything around you. And when you invest in your inner world, your team thrives, your mission moves forward, and your energy becomes the greatest resource instead of your greatest cost. Burnout isn't a badge of honor, it's a signal. And when you honor it and step into realigned leadership, the results ripple outward, sustainably, authentically, and brilliantly. Imagine Imagine walking into a meeting and no longer second guessing yourself. You're calm, you're grounded, and you're able to make decisions from a place of clarity, not out of the urgency or the need to please everyone around you. Every decision becomes an opportunity to strengthen your vision and not just to handle a crisis. Now, think about your communication. What if you could speak in a way that truly reflected your values? Not just responding to others' needs or trying to fix problems on the fly, but leading from your authentic self. Whether you're talking to your team, your boss, or even yourself, that's aligned communication, and it allows you to connect and engage and lead intentionally. And here's where it gets really powerful. What if the culture you've worked so hard to build didn't fall apart the moment you stepped away? What if, even in your absence, your team continued to thrive because of the systems, the boundaries, and energy flow you've put in place? Leadership isn't about being on all the time, it's about creating sustainability and trust so everyone, including you, can rest without fear of burnout. Imagine leading a team, a mission, or even just your own calendar in a way that doesn't drain you, where everything aligns to your deepest purpose and vision. That's the future we're building here. If you're ready to move from burnout to brilliant, resilient leadership, your next step is simple. Complete the free mini course. It's designed to start expanding your awareness of not just where you are, but what's possible when you lead with deeper alignment. Then apply for your Burnout to Brilliance strategy call. In our call, we'll map out your unique challenges, surface the patterns that are keeping you stuck, and design a roadmap for leadership that's not just sustainable, but soulful. And I do want to be transparent here because I only have a few one on one spots each cycle. And that's intentional because I give every leader I work with deep, personalized support. And if your inner voice is nudging you right now, whispering it's time, trust that. This journey isn't about rushing, it's about realigning with the moment you're ready to lead differently. Now that you've seen what's possible, I want to speak directly to you. If any part of this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in any of the stories, the symptoms, or even the solutions I've shared, don't let this become another one day. That time is never coming, but your willingness to do something different, that's right here, right now. This isn't about waiting for the perfect moment when you feel ready, because truthfully, that moment doesn't exist. Change happens when you choose to step into a new path, even if it feels a little uncomfortable at first. This isn't about being willing. It's about being willing to lead differently, being willing to prioritize yourself, and being willing to build a sustainable career that doesn't cost you your well being. It's about choosing a different path, one that supports you and not just the people around you. If you're feeling pulled to take that next step, I've opened up a few spots for people who are ready to explore what this could look like. So make sure that you book your call and let's see if this is the right fit for you or your team. So don't let this be another slide that you screenshot and save for later. Let this be the moment that something shifts. The choice is yours. Are you ready to take it? So, also just wanted to share a few reflections from others as we go through this, where, when we talk about burnout, it's easy to just think about being tired, right? But what you'll find is that it's often a deeper disconnection from our own purpose and energy. And that's what we help you rebuild, right? So, like this program director shared, it's not just about surviving your leadership role, it's about thriving in it again. Another leader said it so clearly. We're often taught that burnout is just a part of making a difference, that if you're not exhausted, you're not doing it right. But that's a lie. Impact doesn't have to come at the expense of your well being. There's a better way, and it's absolutely within reach. And finally, when you start leading from a place of clarity and resilience, everything changes. You stop firefighting and you start designing. That's the real transformation here. Sustainable leadership that feels aligned, authentic, and powerful. I want to bring this to life for you because this isn't just theory, this is real, measurable impact. I've worked with clients who've gone from feeling overwhelmed and reactive to clarity, composure, and confidence. Stress levels have dropped, and decision making has become more grounded. And their ability to manage not just the day to day, but the big picture has drastically improved. And one of the most powerful shifts has actually been in team communication. So, my clients have been able to foster environments where their teams are not only more cohesive, but also more motivated. They're moving towards aligned, open communication, which improves collaboration, morale, and results. People feel seen, heard, and supported. And it doesn't just stop there. Clients have built systems within their organizations that are sustainable. And these systems align with their own values, priorities, meaning that their teams are more resilient and more impact is sustainable, not just successful, but meaningful in the long run. This work is truly transformative and it starts with you. When you shift, you lead with more energy and purpose, and the results flow through to the team, the mission, and the communities that you serve. This work isn't just about making small changes, it's about creating a ripple effect that changes everything. Imagine the power of that transformation for yourself, for your team and your organization. So I want to leave you with this message. You don't have to carry it all. You don't have to keep pushing yourself to the breaking point. There's a way to lead that's sustainable, aligned with your values, and honors your capacity. You can lead in a way that honors your humanity and doesn't require you to sacrifice your well being for the work that you're passionate about. That's the shift I've experienced, and it's possible for you too. If this message resonates with you, or if you feel called to explore what sustainable leadership can look like in your life, I want to invite you to take action now. Let's co create a version of leadership where you not only make a difference, but you thrive in the process. So make sure that you check out the mini course and then apply now so that we can take the first step towards building a leadership model that's both impactful and sustainable. So make sure that you follow the links to get your mini course and to book your call. I'm so excited to explore how we can make this vision a reality for you because you deserve to lead and live in alignment. Thanks, and I'll see you later.